What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. Just a few hours ago, we got some rather shocking news, which is that Activision Blizzard will be suspending service for its games in China starting on January 23rd, 2023. What this means is that in merely 2 months' time, players in mainland China will no longer be able to play Activision Blizzard games such as World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Diablo, and of course, Overwatch. Now, this is a very technical, business-sided story, so I'm going to read through the information and statements we actually have here first, and then delve a bit more into trying to explain what exactly the situation is, and my thoughts on the whole thing overall. Now, the information I'm going to read through here was compiled in a Wowhead article where they took official statements from Activision Blizzard regarding this situation, as well as a response from NetEase, which is the company Activision Blizzard uses to actually publish and run their games in China. So let's go ahead and jump into the main official statement from Blizzard themselves. Blizzard Entertainment Inc. announced today that it'll be suspending most Blizzard game services in mainland China due to the expiration of the current licensing agreements with NetEase Inc. on January 23rd, 2023. This includes World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Warcraft 3 Reforged, Overwatch, the StarCraft series, Diablo 3, and Heroes of the Storm. Diablo Immortal co-development and publishing is covered under a separate agreement between the two companies. Blizzard Entertainment has had licensing agreements with NetEase since 2008, covering the publication of these Blizzard titles in China. The two parties have not reached a deal to renew the agreements that is consistent with Blizzard's operating principles and commitments to players and employees, and the agreements are set to expire in January 2023. We will suspend new sales in the coming days, and Chinese players will be receiving details of how this will work soon. Upcoming releases for World of Warcraft Dragonflight, Hearthstone March of the Lich King, and Season 2 of Overwatch 2 will proceed later this year. We're immensely grateful for the passion our Chinese community has shown throughout the nearly 20 years we've been bringing our games to China through NetEase and other partners, said Mike Ybarra, president of Blizzard Entertainment. Their enthusiasm and creativity inspire us, and we are looking for alternatives to bring our games back to players in the future. Now, shortly after Blizzard made this statement, NetEase went on to make their own statement regarding the issue, stating, NetEase responded that it has been doing its best to negotiate with Activision Blizzard, hoping to advance the contract renewal. After lengthy negotiations, we are still unable to agree on some key terms of cooperation with Activision Blizzard. We are very sorry that Activision Blizzard announced the termination of cooperation in advance today, and we will have to accept this decision. NetEase will continue to perform its duties and serve our players until the last moment. Okay, now, as I mentioned, this is one of these very business technical type news stories, so I'm going to do my best to sort of break everything down. What we're looking at here is basically two companies that were unable to reach a business agreement and thus are going to have to suspend service of their games in China. What this means for individual players of these games is that if you're a Chinese player of a game like Overwatch, World of Warcraft, Diablo, any of those, you could potentially be in trouble. As in, you're not going to be able to keep playing these games after the end of January this coming year. Now, realistically, if I had to hazard a guess as for how this is all going to end up playing out, I'm going to assume that it'll end up working out somehow or another. NetEase isn't the only company Activision Blizzard could be partnering with to publish games like Overwatch in China. From my understanding of the situation, it's entirely possible that Blizzard is maybe being difficult in this negotiation because they're actually intending to move to a different publishing company, such as Tencent or any other tech company that exists in China, and thus this is their way of sort of breaking away from the renewal process with NetEase in order to negotiate some deal that, I don't know, is probably better for them with some other company. But regardless, it does sound like there is at the very least a risk of issues coming about in terms of Chinese players being able to continue playing these games after January this coming year, or at the very least an issue where there could be some downtime where the games aren't available. still, even if Activision Blizzard ends up renegotiating with NetEase or with Tencent or some other company, there could potentially be a downtime where players in China don't have access to the games. It could be a month, it could be a few months, it could be a year. Unfortunately, this is an area where I'm not terribly versed in terms of this side of business dealings with companies like this, so don't take any of my word on it in terms of the projections for how much downtime there's going to be. For all we know, there might not be any downtime. Blizzard could easily renegotiate something within the next 2 months, and there might not end up being any actual suspension period for players whatsoever. But the fact that Blizzard themselves came out and made this statement seemingly as a way of warning people preemptively to know that there's going to be a suspension of service seems like we could very realistically end up seeing services suspended, at least for some period of time. Now, even for those of you who don't live in mainland China and aren't directly immediately affected by this individual arrangement, you have to keep in mind that China, when it comes to Activision Blizzard, is a pretty massive chunk of their revenue. I've seen a number of different estimates talking about how much Blizzard actually makes from Chinese players. I'm not particularly versed in it well enough that I'd want to make any outright statements about that or what those numbers really are, but we do certainly know that in terms of player numbers, there is a very significant population of players for games like Overwatch, World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, who exist within China. And thus, if those people are suspended from playing the game, even for a short period of time, that's going to have a pretty drastic impact on the amount of revenue those games end up making. Revenue which would go into the game itself, and with its absence, could potentially end up impacting everyone who plays these games, not just the people in China. Now, whether that means we're gonna suddenly stop seeing Overwatch 2 updates because Blizzard isn't making as much money anymore, I think that's a bit of an extreme case. As individual players, I don't think those of us outside of China are really gonna see much noticeable impact from all this, at least not in the immediate future. But certainly in terms of Blizzard as a company being able to, make money and continue to develop products for everyone to enjoy, whether they live in China, America, Europe, or wherever, yeah, I think this is potentially going to have some big impacts later down the line. Again, it will all depend on how long the suspension actually ends up lasting, how long it takes for Activision Blizzard to renegotiate with either NetEase or a different company. There are a ton of very technical factors in play here. But considering just how monumental of a story this is, to have Blizzard actually come out and announce that this is something that's apparently going to be happening, I did want to do a video just sort of covering it real briefly and giving my thoughts and trying to break down what exactly it seems like is happening here. Overall, I will say I don't think there's too much cause to panic regarding this story at this point in time. Companies do these sorts of things all the time. A lot of it happens behind the scenes and you never even really see or know about it. So I don't think this is like the end of Blizzard or like, oh, Blizzard's gonna die because they lost a huge portion of their player base from China. No, I don't think anything like that's gonna happen. But it will be an interesting story to follow at the very least and just see how Blizzard sort of plays their hand in this regard. Because it does seem like, based off these statements both Activision Blizzard and NetEase have made regarding all this, that Blizzard seems to be the ones who are being resistant to reaching any sort of agreement. Now again, it's business technical stuff, so who knows what actually was going on internally, but I am very curious to see how this all ends up playing out. Hopefully, things will be resolved soon. Hopefully soon enough that those of you who play the game in China won't actually run into any issues with suspension and downtime of being unable to access the games, but we'll have to wait and see. This is definitely a news story, which I'm very curious to hear what you all have to think about it. Again, it's not particularly in my area of expertise to focus on this side of business sort of negotiation and technical stuff, but I did find the story interesting enough that I definitely wanted to talk about it, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it as well. So let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below. Do you think there's a serious risk to players not having access if they live in China and maybe some drastic revenue drops because of that? Or do you think it's all a bunch of nothing and the companies will figure it out and it'll be like nothing ever happened? Either way, thank you all so much for watching this news update video. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, hit up that bell icon, and come join my Discord server to hang out, never miss any of my future Overwatch content, and special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible. If you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below, and otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.